Hi, kids. Chapter 12 is primarily about all the ways your body defends itself from foreign things. And foreign things that can cause you to become ill are referred to as pathogens. So there are three primary types of pathogens: bacteria, viruses, and then eukaryotic organisms like fungi and protists. And pathogens could even be things like worms or little bugs that bore into your skin as well. But um, your body has all kinds of defense mechanisms to prevent anything foreign from getting into it. Sometimes pathogens could be introduced because they're a blood transfusion or an organ transplant, and sometimes your body recognizes its own cells as foreign, and it does that primarily as a way to battle cancer or areas in your body where things have gone wrong. We're going to focus mostly on microbes because that's kind of pertinent in the news right now. So, some of the non-specific defenses that your body has to protect itself from foreign things is just your skin is a really watertight, pretty impermeable barrier. Anytime you cut your skin or break open your skin, then you're very vulnerable to getting bacteria primarily into your skin, but any kind of pathogen can get in that way. Um, your face has a lot of openings in it, your eyes and your nostrils and your mouth and even your ears. They're not completely open right to your bloodstream, though. So you have different mechanisms that make those be better barriers as well. Your skin has sebum in it, which is antimicrobial properties. You have some antimicrobial properties in the tears that are bathing your eyes. The low pH of your stomach helps kill off any bacteria that end up getting down your mouth and into your digestive tract. And women's bodies, which are like have a little uterus, which is like a perfect home for something to grow in, they have a really low pH to prevent any bacteria that get up into their body from taking residence inside of their uterus and living there. Your respiratory tract has a lot of stickiness to it. The mucus that's secreted from your mucus goblet cells helps to just trap anything foreign that gets into your respiratory system. And then you have little cilia, little hairs that push anything forward, and then you blow it out of your nose or sneeze it out of your nose to prevent it from getting all the way down into your respiratory system. You have little areas in your body where you have sort of like a police force of a lot of white blood cells kind of evaluating the foreign things that are coming in and developing a response to that. And so you have lymph nodes in your like armpit areas, right here underneath your throat, have some in your groin area, and your lymph vessels get filtered there. Lymph nodes kind of look for foreign things that they could need to initiate an immune response on. We'll talk more a little later about the types of cells that are developed in your lymph nodes and how they can get really specific about fighting against a particular foreigner. You also have some little spots in your intestines that are kind of like intestinal tonsils, and you have your tonsils that are right around your throat that are responding to fighting off foreign things. So sometimes I know when I used to get allergies, sometimes my tonsils would get sort of swollen, and I would even get these weird white, puffy, gross little knots that came out of old white blood cells that were battling off my allergies. But that's probably TMI for you right now. So, some of the specific types of defense that your body can perform in order to get rid of things very specifically are very involved with the parts of blood. So, normally we would have studied the parts of blood before we studied immunity, but immunity was a hot topic for you guys right now. So, I wanted to just do a crash course of blood right now. When you get blood taken, usually it's just this big red liquid. A lot of times the doctors will spin in a centrifuge the blood to make the heaviest things fall to the bottom and kind of separate things out by size. So the heaviest thing in your blood are these red blood cells, which are also called erythrocytes. That's kind of like Latin for cell and Latin for, I guess, red. You have a lot of red blood cells in your blood, so it's almost half of it, about 45% of your blood is made of red blood cells. And their primary function is just transporting oxygen. Once they're mature, they don't even have a nucleus in them. They're just full of hemoglobin just to transport oxygen. And then the top part of it, the bulk of it, is liquid called plasma that has a lot of dissolved things in it. It has dissolved salts like sodium and chlorine and calcium. It has dissolved nutrients like proteins, carbohydrates, lipids. It has dissolved nucleic acids. It also has some dissolved proteins like albumin that just sort of keep it at an equal osmotic concentration with the cells around it so that your cells aren't swelling or shrinking. And it has a lot of other proteins like antibodies and enzymes floating around in it. So there's a lot of things dissolved in the plasma. It's not just clear white liquid or clear liquid. And then this little darker white area right in between the plasma and the red blood cells, that represents the clear things that are cellular like in your blood. And it includes all these different types of white blood cells, which are pretty distinctive the way they look. Some of them are grainy, like they soak up some of the stains on them, and you see these little granules or dots in the cytoplasm. And some of them are agranular. They don't have those grains in them. If their name ends in phil, basophil, neutrophil, eosinophil, they're the types that have the little granules in them. And if they don't, if their name ends in cyte, there's a monocyte behind my picture right here, then, can I move this? Oh, I can. Then they are not granular. The cytoplasm is not granular. So these are the 5 different types of white blood cells that are very involved in your specific immune response. And these platelets are little fragments of cells that are full of enzymes that function when you tear your blood vessels open. They can spill out some of their contents and initiate a clotting response so that you form a little plug and you don't keep bleeding all over the place. There's a little question on this slide. Which part of the blood do you think is the heaviest? I hope you chose A. So your immune response involves your body responding to something foreign. The foreign thing that will generate your cells to create a protein that's specifically shaped to incapacitate that foreign thing. Those are called antigens. Antigens, an abbreviation that means antibody generators. And the specific type of white blood cells that are able to make those antigens, antibodies, which are these proteins, are called B lymphocytes. Types of antigens, foreign things, might be viruses, which are like 100 times smaller than a cell, the smallest cells. These are some bacterial cells, which could also be pathogens that could cause an antibody response. There are different shapes of them. Bacterial cells are really tiny also. They're about 100 times smaller than our eukaryotic cells. And then some eukaryotic cells like fungi and certain protists, like if you drank pond water, you might drink an amoeba or a Giardia protist. And those could also be foreign things that could cause you to get sick. They could be pathogens as well. So antigens are the foreign things. Pathogens are foreign things that will cause disease. And antibodies are the specific proteins that are like a lock that fits around a key. So they're very specifically shaped to incapacitate and start the process of getting rid of these foreign things. And those are part of the specific immune response in order to build these specific proteins against the foreign things. So if we were just to look at a slide of blood, you would see it's predominantly the red blood cells with no nucleus in them. And then you would see maybe a handful of different white blood cells. These are probably little platelets, these little stained areas down there. Normally these wouldn't show in your blood if you just looked at it. You have to add stain to make the nuclei and the little granules show up on a slide. This particular slide has quite a few white blood cells in it. And by counting the number and types of white blood cells, you can learn a lot about what's going on with someone. If they have too many white blood cells, there's something foreign in there. And if you can identify which types of white blood cells, sometimes you can narrow down what kind of foreign thing is going on and how long it's been there for. So here's another question for you. What's another name for a red blood cell? I hope you chose C.